Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Prestige Living Podcast. So with that, who do you want to be?
Hello, welcome to Prestige Living. This is another segment of Real Estate Truths and Myths. I'm Jay O'Brien here with my partner, Sammer Medauer.
Hello.
Partners in real estate, not partners in life. So today our topic is why Zillow is not the end-all be-all, and when you're looking for a valuation that you should absolutely verify with a realtor. In fact, I'm on Zillow's website right now, and there are a number of disclaimers that say the exact same thing in a bunch of different verbiage. But one of the most salient things that pops out to me on this website is that it shows the data coverage and Zestimate accuracy for different counties all over the country. I've brought up Los Angeles right now, and one of the things that really sticks out is that the accuracy on the Zestimate says that it's at that 37.9% of the time, 37.9% of the time, the Zestimate is within 5% of the sales price. So let me break that down for you. Let's call it 40%. Okay, 4 out of 10 times they are within 5%, which means 60% of the time they're not. And let's remember, 5% of a sales price in Orange County is a lot of money. I think we pulled a average or a median sales price today actually, and we're like $710,000 for a single family residence in Orange County. So if you just go 5% off that, it's $35,000 that they're off on a good day.
Right, that's above or below, right?
Yeah, above or below on a good day. 60% of the time, it's going to vary more than that. In fact, it says that they're within 20%, 83.9% of the time. So, I mean, if you look at you pull it up for yourself. Go to the Zestimate section on Zillow. But the point is, when we look at these numbers, we see it happen all the time because right now in Orange County, properties are selling at 99.1% of list price. For homes that are priced well, I mean, it pretty much goes to show if you're familiar with the supply and demand right now that if the home is priced correctly, it's going to sell fast and it's going to sell at a fair price, fair market value. So when we meet with sellers or even buyers for that matter, and they go to Zillow as their crutch, this is just flawed, and it's something that everyone should be really made aware of, because they should understand a little bit about how the algorithms work with Zillow, how average price per square foot is not a variable you want to be using in the context that they use it in, and that you really need to hire a realtor for some professional advice. So Sammer, when you go meet with a seller and they tell you that they already know what their house is worth, in fact, they're probably going to try and sell it on their own because the market right now is so hot.
Right.
And they already know how much the house is worth because they Zillowed it. How do you respond to that?
Well, you know that we always look up the Zestimates before we go out on those listing presentations because we know that the sellers are going there. At the end of the day, we really need to educate our sellers and let them know how we actually come up with value in the real world. Well, at least in Orange County. I mean, there may be states out there, I don't know, New York. I always watch $1 Million Listing New York. They're always throwing out average price per square foot. You know, they just go on a listing presentation and, you know, they know how much every home and every building is worth, you know, to the penny.
I mean, multiplication's not that hard. If you can give me the average price per square foot and I'm going off of that, I'll tell you exactly how much every house is worth.
Right, yeah, and so maybe consumers have a bad conception of how things actually work, but number one is we go out there prepared. We know what the Zestimates say on Zillow, and we also know what the average per square foot pricing is. We go on OC Register, pull up that information, and really educate the seller. We let them know how appraisers actually pull value, how those appraised values, which banks use to lend money on, which people use to buy homes, and actually result in recorded sales that go in the tax records and go into the MLS as data that realtors use to actually determine value. And it's just an educational process.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's a number of different resources out there today, and it's not to discount them. I mean, in fact, there's a lot of them out there that are good starting points, but to rely on it solely is actually doing yourself a huge disservice on either the buying or selling side. I mean, these are large margins of error we're talking about. They swing both ways. So whether you're going to lose $35,000 or you're going to pay, too much money for a home or whatever it is, it's critical to know how the person you're speaking with is arriving at their number. It was one of the things we always ask a seller, I always ask a buyer, is when an offer is being placed, if I'm not the one advising on the purchase price, or if the seller wants to list their home and they've already have that number in mind, I always want to know how they have arrived at that price. That even goes for other real estate agents who have priced homes. Mm-hmm. Basically, if the answer does not revolve around empirical data, I'm not interested, and there really is no teeth in your argument. We don't price homes based on feelings. I feel like my house is worth more because I like it so much. That's not how you're going to buy a house, and that's not how other buyers are going to look at your house either.
Yeah, absolutely. That is not how... It's really important to understand how the appraisal process works. I deal with a client recently that came up with their own valuation method. Like you said, you always go ask your clients, how did you come up with the value? So they give me their valuation method, and it's very creative, and I wish I could use it. The problem is when that seller, who is also a buyer, applied that same valuation method when he went to buy, he was actually overpaying by $200,000 on the purchase side. So it completely worked against him on the other side. You have to use a valuation method that the banks and the professionals in the marketplace actually use to make transactions happen every day. Otherwise, like you said, you're just making up your own rules. And if we could find somebody that was, an agent that was dumb enough to believe us and convince their buyer to do it, then that's great. But at the end of the day, they're going to go to tax records. They're going to go to the MLS closed sales. They're going to apply typical adjustments that the appraisers would use. And those are the appraisers that are supplying the appraisals to the banks who actually lend the money. Most transactions require financing. And so we kind of have to use that valuation method.
Right. So I think a lot of the pushback that we experience when it comes to pricing is the real life accurate assessment of what a value is often pushed up against, because it's not as much money for a seller, or it's too much for a buyer. One of the things to remember as a seller, if you think that your agent is underpricing your home, and not all agents are the same, so, again, you want to ask them how they're arriving at their number too, and see if they've come up with an ultra creative way that doesn't make any sense either. But at the end of the day, our goal is to net you the most money as the seller anyway. Remember, all else aside from what our fiduciary responsibility is and everything, sellers often will boil things down to money. Well, if we're going to go off of just monetary gains and monetary reasons for things, real estate agents get paid a percentage, a percentage of a purchase price, meaning the higher that price is, the more money they get paid. So if we were looking at things that way and wanted to look at the best interest of the agent, well, overpricing the home would be to their benefit if they thought that it was really going to sell for that. So when a home valuation takes place and a listing appointment and there's empirical data to back up what the price is for the home, it's something to be taken considered very seriously. And again, you can ask the agent how they've arrived at the number, because if they don't have a concrete response for that, well, then we have other problems as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to point out that, and I think you did earlier, that Zillow does say that their estimates are a starting point, and they actually recommend that you hire a local real estate professional that has market expertise. That is right on there on the disclaimer next to their statistics about their estimates. So they actually do understand the value of real estate professionals in the marketplace. And so as sellers, one thing I wanted to go back to, Jay, was the statistics. So what happens when if 99.1% of properties are selling within one, well, I'm sorry, if most properties are selling within 99.1% of the list price, and you're overpricing a property, let's say by 5%, according to these statistics on Zillow, I mean, what does that do to your ability to get a high quality or the highest offer?
So I'm glad you asked that, because I'm going to relate it to a golf cart example. So there's this person in my neighborhood that put their golf cart out on their front lawn and tried to sell it, and it was $2,000. And this thing it looks like it's 20 years old, and it's faded paint, and they want $2,000 for it. So every day I would drive by that thing, I'd see if it moved, and it didn't. And week after week would go by, and it'd go down a couple $100, and a couple hundred more, until one day it got to $1,250. And I'm thinking, I've looked at golf carts before. I know the price of them. And honestly, I think that they could have done better than where they're at. But the problem is, it's been sitting there for so long. Every single neighbor's driving by that thing every single day. And now, when they're at $1,250, no one's knocking on the door saying, hey, I'd love to buy your golf cart for $1,250. They're saying, hey, I'll buy this thing for $800.
Right.
That's the same thing that you're going to experience on the home side. When you're selling a home, the first 2 to 4 weeks, that's where everything's going to happen. That's where the marketing is critical. You need to capture every single eyeball of every buyer who's in the market, hot, warm, cold, all of them. They all need to see the property. If that thing is overpriced, everyone's going to overlook that thing, and the longer it sits, the less people are going to want it. And in reality, it will probably sell for under market value because there was no demand for it.
Right. They're just expecting the price to go farther and farther down at some point.
Correct. So again, we talk about home valuations all the time. The accuracy is really what this specific episode is about, is staying on track with, if you're going to price the home, you want it priced accurately, and Zillow is not the end-all, be-all for that. So you want to hire a local professional, you want to interview them, you want to understand exactly what their process is, what their formula is to arrive at that number, and hopefully from there's really not too much to argue about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great starting point. There's no doubt about it. Everyone's going to go there. That's no problem. Hey, we go there because we know sellers go there. But at the end of the day, all the work is going to be done by your agent, and they're going to hopefully provide you with the right comparable sales, the right adjustments, and honestly put the right strategy together given the current market conditions, and give you a really good, well-rounded expectation of not only how much it will sell for, how long it will take to sell, and the type of activity you can expect within, like you said, the first 2 to 4 weeks. How long it will take to sell, and the type of activity you can expect within, like you said, the first 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, so again, the topic is Zillow not being the end-all, be-all. If you've got questions about home valuations, what your home is worth, how to determine home value, please contact us. You can reach us at info, I-N-F-O, at prestigesocal.com. You can like us on Facebook by searching Remax Prestige, and you can find us online at prestigelivingpodcast.com.
If you would like to be on the Prestige Living Podcast or know someone that would be a great guest, go to www.prestigelivingpodcast.com. We'd love to hear your story.